So 6,000 people got sick from a bag of lettuce. 2 of them sadly died. And the farm that grew it, they hadn't had a federal inspection walkthrough in 7 years. Welcome back to GrowFit Florida. I'm Jermaine and I grow my food right here in beautiful West Central Florida, Zone 10A. Today, I'm going to read to you what the government has said to date about this outbreak. Then I'm going to show you these inspection numbers. We're going to have a talk about it. And they're even worse than the outbreak numbers. Then I want to give you my take on this whole thing and the things that you and we can do in our own gardens. So here's what happened. The CDC page was updated on August 5th. 6,358 people got sick so far from this outbreak. 278 of them had to get hospitalized and 2 people sadly lost their lives. 15 states have been affected so far. The FDA, it says that the last person reported being sick was on July 31st. Now that's just a few weeks ago. This likely isn't over yet. It was iceberg lettuce from Taylor Farms in Mexico, grown in central Mexico. Well, Taylor Farms started pulling that lettuce off the market on July 17th. And by then it had already went out to 27 states. Many grocery stores, restaurants, Taco Bell had it, Walmart had it under a market side label that they said. So now you're probably wondering if the lettuce is coming from Mexico, if 27 states received this lettuce, how did they figure this out? As I looked into it, Michigan's health department, they took 190 sick people who eaten from that Taco Bell and from other Taco Bells, and they went through every single thing that these people ordered, line by line. 90% of them, they ate iceberg lettuce. When looking into it, who made this lettuce, and they start tracing it back, it was Taylor Farms. Now, that's how they did it. It wasn't in a lab test, none of that. It was 190 people they had recalling everything they ate prior to getting sick. So anything that they couldn't remember, they just put down and the CDC start tracing it back. On July 19th, the FDA said that they had a positive test on that lettuce. The same day they took it back and they called it a false positive. You guys remember that video of me talking about it. As of early August, the latest data that I'm pulling prior to making this recording, whenever I put this video out for you guys, not one single person is confirmed positive on any test. And Taylor Farm says they run 2,000 samples ever since May, and every single one has came back clean. So nobody ever caught this thing in the lab. The whole case is built on paper trails and who got sick and trying to link it together and common meals amongst everybody. So just letting you all know about that. But I know what you're thinking, Jermaine. I seen this on the news. Yeah, you did. We all have. But what I'm about to tell you next, you didn't see on the news. And this is the reason why I decided to make this video and hit record today, because this is something that's not shared. You have to go out your way to find this. So the GAO, that's a government agency in Congress that's used to audit federal agencies. They reported a number. Now, this number came out in January of last year, so you can go pull it up yourself. What it says is that the FDA is supposed to inspect 19,200 foreign food facilities every single year. On average, from 2018 to 2023, they completed 917 foreign inspections per year. That means they missed their target by 18,283 facilities annually. That's 18,283 places who supposed to get checked out and wasn't audited. Imagine if a restaurant went years without a food inspector coming by to make sure it was safe. 18,283 facilities that are FDA on average hasn't checked to make sure it was even safe for us to consume the food that they're sending us. Crazy. So why, you ask, is the FDA dropping the ball so badly? I wanted to know this too. So I dug a little bit deeper into this, and the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, you guys remember DOGE? Well, in 2025, they cut 3,500 FDA employees' jobs. They took them away. But what's crazy is DOGE, or the government, or they're one and the same, whatever, they realized that some places they made a mistake and they shouldn't have cut all these jobs. One of them was the FDA. And since June, they have been on a hiring spree and they're trying to ramp it up and bring in 2,200 more employees. That's very interesting. They just started hiring again after. It's for another video. I won't let you guys talk about it in the comments. That's for another video. But I just want to bring that to light. So Doge cut an important agency like the FDA, took jobs away. Now they're undermanned. Now they're not able to go to these facilities and properly audit these facilities. They already had trouble before Doge ever came about. They already wasn't going over there to audit these places. They didn't have enough employees and they were having trouble doing it. Now you take away 3,500 jobs, and I mean, over 18,000 foreign facilities have not been audited. They're not getting audited. And another thing that the GAO wrote down that the FDA told them is that 19,000 places that they're supposed to inspect yearly is an unrealistic number. It can't be done. This is so wild to me that if you're writing they're writing this so we can all read it, but they're not telling us that the FDA cannot possibly, they don't have the manpower or woman power to go audit these places. They're not telling us that, but they're putting it on their websites that it is not going to happen. But it's still okay for food to be sold to us from these places without a proper inspection. I don't know how y'all feel about that. Let me know in the comments. You can go look this up for yourself. This is public knowledge that they will not tell you, but they're not going to hide it. It's right there on the websites. It's plain. It's right there for you. You can go find it yourself. GAO also said that the FDA, they never got back to them on a number that can actually be done. Like they're asking, like, how many can you do? They never got back to them with a realistic number. So the goal is impossible. There is no goal, which means there's nothing anybody is being held accountable for. Get back on Taylor Farms in Mexico. So CBS News, they went and pulled its inspection history. Now, I want to be clear with you. This is not, now everything else I done got from government websites and documents. This is on CBS reporting. So if you go on CBS, you can read this report too. But CBS says that they uncovered that the Taylor Farms in Mexico that was tied to the Cyclospora outbreak hasn't been inspected in 7 years. 7 years. I had to take a break on that one because it's really just so crazy to me. And while the Colorado Taylor Farms plant is linked to E. coli, suffer from severe sanitation issues, including unwashed equipment and lack of basic hand washing. So Taylor Farms, they put out a statement, and I give you the meat of it, so to speak. So they said that they got the best in-class prevention protocols. They say that they spend more than $200 million a year on food safety, from independent audits, regular testing on all their water sources. Remember, we talked about that water. And they shut down that plant on July 18th and brought in outside experts to go through everything. Now, I truly do believe them on the money because that can be traced. You can't lie about the money that you're spending because people can always trace that money. But it's just hard to believe that the FDA hasn't been at Taylor Farms in Mexico in 7 years. In 7 years. So a company like that, you would think that they would get tested quarterly. I mean, they're giving us so much food. You would think quarterly they're being tested and they're being audited. But FDA hasn't been there in 7 years. And that is just wild to me. And here's something else. Here's something else that I found in digging around on the FDA website. And you can do this with me. Go ahead. If you got time, do it. On the FDA's own website, look up the environmental assessment from 2013, the Cyclospora outbreak in Iowa and Nebraska. Same company, Taylor Farms in Mexico. The product this time was a bag of salad mix, iceberg lettuce, romaine, greens, red cabbage, and carrots. And it all went out to Olive Garden and Red Lobster. So, and the FDA's own answer to their own report was they could not figure out how this parasite got in there, and they just couldn't find it. They went to Taylor Farms then and they could not find it. And that FDA review from 2013, it confirmed that Taylor Farms in Mexico facility was using recycled wash water for its salad mixes. So the FDA, they couldn't conclusively say that the source of Cyclospora came from that, but they did tell the company, Taylor Farms, to reevaluate their washing process. You can't make this stuff up. So instead of telling them like, yeah, don't do that, or we can't allow you to, no, they just said, reevaluate your process. It might be this. And then also they recommended that someone go study whether that entire region where Taylor Farms is growing food has a parasite problem. And that was in 2013. So now come to 2024, the CDC investigated an E. coli outbreak in onions at McDonald's. 140 people got infected in 14 states, 34 in the hospital, and one older man in Colorado lost his life. Those onions came from where? You got it, Taylor Farms. Different food, different bug, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just saying that if you're a government agency and you're supposed to be here protecting us, maybe get enough people on the job to do your job. And remember, with this outbreak, with this Cyclospora, you can get affected and see these effects in like 2 days or 2 weeks. So you never really know. Everybody's different, but it can last for a month and a half. So it's not something that goes away quickly. And what they're saying is you can feel fine for a couple weeks and then it comes right back even stronger. And it's extreme runny diarrhea. So I'm sorry to be so vulgar with it, but that's what's happening with it. And the CDC also says that washing it doesn't guarantee that the parasites are going to come off. It's likely not. And sanitizers or the vegetable sprays and all that and vinegar is not going to do anything either. They're saying the only way you can kill it is 158 degrees. So 158 degrees is the only way. So all that raw lettuce that's in the bag, rinsing it in your kitchen sink, you feel protected, but it's not doing anything. Still wash your produce. I'm not saying not, because not everything has it, but as far as Cyclospora is not going to take that out of your lettuce or any of your produce. Well, neighbor, I know you're wondering, like, what can we do about this? For starters, let's not bring that biosolid fertilizer anywhere near our house. And I know what you're thinking, like, I don't use organic fertilizer. I don't go to the big box stores to buy the organic fertilizer. I'm Mr. or Mrs. Garden Perfect. Well, for the rest of us who has or who still does because they need it, let's just be safe, because there's nothing wrong with going to a big box store or to getting some fertilizer for your garden. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody, once you start to get a little bit more equipped, you learn your ways of how to make your own fertilizer, your own compost, yes. But let's not discourage people. Let me stop. Let me go back to the video. But yeah. And if you think that you're not going to the big box stores to get that fertilizer, are you getting fertilizer for your grass? Because a lot of fertilizer for lawns contains biosolids. So check with your lawn care company, or if you're putting it yourself, check with those bags, because you could be putting that down on your grass, and your garden or wherever you grow your food might not be too far, and it's leaching out, and you're still contaminating your food because you're putting biosolids from your lawn care fertilizer on your grass. So don't think that it's not in those products, because yes, it is. Yes, it is. So the second thing that we can do is, when we're shopping in the grocery store, when we grab an item, before we throw it in our buggy, we have to make sure that the ingredients in that item is up to par with what we want to put in our body. That's number one. Now we have to take it even a step further. We have to look to see, where was this made? Like, what city, what state, what country was this made or came from? We need to know these things before we just put it in our cart and take it home and feed it to our family. We need to know. And it only takes a couple minutes of getting your phone out and looking up the company, looking up the brand to see if there's any active recalls in another part of the country or part of the world, to see what's going on with this. Just takes a couple minutes. That's all. That couple minutes you use before you put that item in your cart is going to save you a couple months of that having diarrhea or wherever else you might bring into your house. I think it's worth it. Now, I'm not saying that every single time you're going to be right with your research in the grocery store, because obviously you're not trying to be in there for 2 hours researching, but it's better than just blindly trusting whatever we grab. Another thing, we need to start learning where our food is coming from. We need to get back to going to farmers markets and seeing people, our local farmers or our backyard growers who's selling their produce, at a stand, and you can walk and you can talk to them and they can tell you when they picked it. They can tell you how they grew it. Same with our butchers. Like, we need to get back to going to and knowing our butchers who has who can tell you about where they're getting this meat. They can tell you more about, the cuts that you're getting, instead of just going to a grocery store, picking it up and putting it in there and nobody knows nothing. We need to start getting back with people who have some skin in this, who have their hands somewhat on our food. They're the ones who's giving us our food. They can tell us about what we're about to put in our carts. So I feel we need to get back more to that. Instead of going to the people in the garden community, people talk all the time about these big box stores being so, but I don't hear nobody talking about these big box grocery stores. These grocery stores who some of them are charging so much per item now that if you go to Walmart and you go to another store and you're like, okay, this is $2 more at this store. Well, what are they doing with that surplus that they're making on that same item that Walmart sells $2 cheaper for food? They're not using that extra money to do research for us, because we're going to this grocery store and they're making money on top of money, and they're not using that to go make sure that everything that they're selling out that grocery store is legit. Like, I'm starting to think that these grocery stores need to have their hand in some of this. They need to start having some independent agencies going out to these places to help the FDA out. Because if you're selling us that food out of your grocery store, especially if you're changing the brand, like how some of these grocery stores, they carry their own brand, but they don't have farms. They're getting it from these farms and they're slapping their own label on top. If you're going to do that, then you need to send out people to these farms and to these places to do your own audit and come back, and you can assure us that you're selling us something that's been audited by you. Like, I would love to see these grocery stores have their audit principles of what they're looking for in their farms, or, and for all types of things, for beef, for chicken, for eggs, tomatoes, for carrots, for lettuce, for onions, for everything. Show us how you audit these places, and then we'll gladly pay that extra $1.25 or extra $1.50 or $2, whatever it is you're charging, more than like a Walmart or a Aldi's. We'll gladly pay it. And I think most people would, because you're going out of your way. So let me get back to the video again. The 3, and the most important thing, is we all have to get back to growing our own food. It is vital that we grow our own food. And it's for so many different reasons. Because let me tell you this. Most of us, and most of you watching me, our backyards are pretty much probably around the same size. I have less than a quarter acre of space to grow food in our backyard. Some of you might have even less. Some of you might have slightly more. But the majority of us, we don't have all that crazy land, especially if you live in Florida. Like, we don't have all that land. They're building things left and right everywhere. Even, it's hard to find a lot of land for an affordable price. But whatever you have is so vital that you start growing some food, because it's going to save you money. And that money that you save growing a lot of these items, you're able to go out and get some more premium food. You're able to go to a farmer's market on a Saturday, walk around, and even if it's a little bit more expensive to get that organic lettuce from Tammy, or to go get those carrots, from Stephanie or whatever, you'll gladly pay it, because first off, you're saving money because you're growing your own food, and that might just be something that's not in season for you and they're able to grow it, or you just don't grow it in your backyard. And second, you don't mind doing it because you understand the value of growing your own food. You want to support other local businesses, and it tastes better. It tastes better than getting food that's traveled 1,500 miles in your grocery store that's been gassed and everything else. I'm not going to even go there. Another thing, we all need to get back to knowing where our food has actually come from. And that is so important because just like I said, getting carrots from Tammy at the farmer's market and you go back to her every single week, it's the same thing with your butcher. You know, we need to get back to that. We need to actually start getting food from people who can tell us about our food. These grocery stores, like they're just putting it in there, slapping it. Mexico, like a lot of this stuff is coming now. I'm no knock against Mexico. Mexico is great, but I'm just saying, like, we're getting all this imported food from everywhere that has not been even checked by our FDA. And you know, we don't even have great standards in comparison to a lot of other places, but we do have standards. So we have to get back to growing our food, knowing where our food has actually come from. And I would just say, let's not wait for things to get so much worse before we start the process of getting the seed in the ground. I'll leave you with a few things. The first thing, if you want to learn more about biosolids, go check out my free course. I'm going to put the link in the description. The second thing is I have a fall garden challenge that's happening right now where we're going to grow more food this fall than we ever have in our life. And I'm giving you some of the tools that I'm using right now. And I've been using for a whole year before I even put this out. Giving you these tools. The link is in the description for that as well. And I just want to say, I hope that this video just opened up some insight that you might not have been thinking about. I truly hope that it was good ROI for you. I truly do. And let me know in the comments your thoughts about everything. And until that next video, God bless.